the second module that you complete in your certifications. You should probably do ethics first, and then access sickness, in my opinion, should be the second one. Then segregated funds should be the third one, and then life insurance last. I talked a little bit about that yesterday. The reason why, ethics, which we talked a little bit about yesterday, will teach you the language of the business. Accident sickness will teach you about the insurances, which we're going to talk about today. Segregated funds is going to teach you about investments. And then when you get to the life insurance module, there's investments and insurance built in some permanent insurance products. So if you know things about insurance and you know things about investment, you will understand how they work together. So that's why life insurance is usually a little bit later. You haven't missed anything yet. So we're going to talk about accident sickness today. And I would like us to use this as potentially our second module that we finish. If you haven't finished ethics yet, that's okay. I'm glad you're still here. But this will help you learn going forward, okay? We good? All right, I said that really fast because I want to get into it. I see about 15 of us that have our videos on. Hopefully there can be more as we go through, but I know life happens. So first thing about accident sickness that we can throw out there is this is a living benefits module. Okay? This means anything or basically everything we're going to go through today in insurance is going to be focused on you living after you get sick, living after you get injured, or being not able to take care of yourself but living. So there's not going to be much life and death conversation today. It's going to be more like I get sick, I get injured, something along those lines. So I want you to keep in mind that. If they throw in life insurance answers, I would say that there's probably not the answer for this module in those questions. So you just remember what module you're in sometimes, okay? First insurance we're going to talk about is health insurance. And I know some of us who maybe been here before, I get this question, Eric, are you going to explain it the same way that you explained it 2 weeks ago? Yes, but repetition is the mother of all learning, and you probably need to hear it again, right? Like I hear my brother talk to his niece all the time. Did you wash your hands? Oh yeah. And she go, how many times you got to hear wash your hands before people do it? At least once more to the people that don't wash their hands when they go to the bathroom, right? At least once more. Anyway, life insurance is usually takes care of people's dental bills, right? And prescription drug bills. That's usually the main ones. There's vision in there. Sometimes there's massage, chiropractic, vision, all that stuff. But I'd say dental and drugs are usually the ones that people focus on the most. Now, the way health insurance works is usually I pay some and the insurance company pays some, right? I pay $10 for my antibiotics, not $100. Or I pay $150 for my dentist, not $1,500. Something like that. And so between you and the insurance company, you have to split that cost somehow. And there's two different ways that they're going to talk about in this course. The first is something called co-insurance. And the second one is called deductibles. Okay? And they work a little bit different than each other. Co-insurance is a percentage that the insurance company will pay. I'm going to write INS for insurance going forward. Hopefully that makes sense because I might write it lots of times today. That's how much the insurance company pays. So if I have a $1,000 dental bill and I have a 70% co-insurance, that means the insurance company is going to cover $700 or 70% of that $1,000. And then the client will have to pay $300 or 30% of that. Okay? And that's how it'll go, dollar for dollar. So for every dollar that there is in a bill, they pay 70% of it, you pay 30% of it, up to a maximum, usually every single year. Usually there's a maximum that they won't pay more than this amount every year, and then it gets reset every year. Okay? Usually calendar years, if anyone's curious. January 1 type years. Okay? Deductibles are a little bit different. Deductibles are a dollar amount that the insurance company pays first. Oh no, sorry, what am I saying? Insurance company pays first, that's the other one. That the client pays first. This is why people joke that I put Bailey's in my coffee, right? Just kidding, I have coffee, but is there Bailey's in it? That's up for you to figure out. I'm not going to say anything. But for those of you how many of us in the meeting, this is your first time being on a class with me? Awesome. Welcome, Kevin. Welcome, Vanessa. Perfect. Hey, welcome. I like the classes that Oliver's puts on, and they're great. The guy knows lots. He's super educational, but he's also super boring. And so that's not me. We're going to have a little bit of fun. I have sound effects. Why not? We're going to have a good time. Okay? Whoa. Whoa, right? Every time I hear that, it makes me think of the claw from Toy Story. The claw. Anyway, I just like to have fun. Okay. The deductibles are a dollar amount that the client pays first. So if we use the same dental bill in this example, okay? Oliver is boring, Eric is not. Yeah, I like to hear that. The way deductibles work, let's say I had a $250 deductible in my plan. The way it shakes down is the client will pay the first $250 of that bill, and then the insurance company will cover the rest, $750. So where coinsurance was like, for every dollar, they're going to pay 70% of it. Deductibles are, you have to pay the first $250 worth, and then we will pay the rest. Okay? Now, usually in the course, which we're going through this course that we're going through with me to teach us how to pass the course, the HLQP, is in there, usually they're only going to talk about one of these two at a time. Sometimes two. Okay? They'll usually talk about one at a time, but if they do talk about both at the same time, you always deal with deductibles first, and you're going to deal with coinsurance second. And I'm going to give us an example on that as well. Okay? In red. Okay? Let's say, in this example, we have the same $1,000 bill that we had with coinsurance and we had with deductibles. Okay? But in this example, they have coinsurance and deductibles. The first thing that would happen in here is the client would pay the first $250. The deductible will get paid. Okay? Then, of the $750 left over to pay, this would get split 70% to the insurance company, 30% to the client. Okay? So, when they include deductibles and coinsurance in the plan, the deductibles always get paid for by the client first, then the rest of it gets split however the coinsurance goes, 70-30 in this case. Now, some of you might be saying, Eric, that means I'm paying more money into that bill than the other ones individually. So why would someone get a combination plan? Well, I want you to think about this. Every time a client technically has worse coverage in your mind, which means like less coverage, it's because it's cheaper per month. More coverage, you want more coverage, you pay more monthly for that. So if it's less coverage, worse coverage, at least when you look at it, that means they're going to save money every month. It's going to be a little cheaper. So buying coinsurance by itself or buying deductibles by itself will be more expensive than having coinsurance and deductible together. Does this make sense? Okay, good. Has everybody got this written down? Okay, thumbs up if you got it in there. Yeah, perfect. Okay, moving forward from that one. Scrolling down. A lot of times people use health insurance in what they consider a group insurance, or a lot of people use the word benefits, right? This is a word we kind of hear of in normal, everyday language. Okay, I have benefits at my job. That means I have group insurance at my job. That's usually what that means. Okay. Now, there's a couple of things to keep in mind with group benefits. The first thing is it's a third-party contract. Okay. And what that means is there's three parties to the contract, to the insurance policy. There's the client, or sorry, let's just go this way. Let's say the employee, the person who gets covered, right? The insurance company, and the workplace. Right? The place you work went to the insurance company, gets the insurance, you get covered through that. That's how benefits work. Now, the reason why I talk about this third-party contract conversation is if any one or two people of this contract go away, so will the insurance, which is usually you as the employee leaving your job. So if you leave your job, you don't get to take your job's insurance with you. Now, there'll be two different options probably. The insurance company will say, hey, Eric, since you're leaving that job, you can convert it to an individual one and you'll be covering yourself and paying for it by yourself. Or you need to go find another provider to get that insurance. Okay? So I guess what I'm trying to say is it doesn't just leave with you. You don't stay on pipe fitters union benefits if you're no longer in the pipe fitters union, if we go in that example. Okay? Couple other things to mention. Before you get offered group benefits at your job, you have to pass your probationary period. Which usually is 3 months, I'd say, but let's just call it probationary period, because some are 0 days, some are 30 days, some are 3 months, 6 months, certain amount of hours. Depends on the company. But either way, you have to work there a certain amount of time before they even offer you benefits. That's called your probationary period. During that time, you are on probation. Okay? Once you pass by your probationary period, you are eligible, or they'll send you something and say you're eligible to jump into benefits. There's something called an eligibility period. Basically, how long you have to take it or leave it. And the answer to that is usually 30 days. Now, in the course, you're going to use 30 days as like a hard and fast rule. So when you're offered benefits from your job, you have 30 days to take it or leave it. If you don't take it, you leave it. As simple as that. You won't be able to go back 6 months from now and say, hey, I want to hop on the plan now. You won't be able to do that. Okay? Now, the reason why you won't be able to do that, I want to make this super, super clear. Group benefits have no medicals. Everybody that works at the company gets covered because they work at the company, regardless of their age, health, smoking status, gender, whatever it ends up being. Okay? So, if we were all in a company together, all 54 of us, we would all pay the same price, and we'd all be covered for the same stuff, regardless of your age, health, what have you. When you buy a benefits package, or sorry, not benefits, if you get health insurance by yourself, you do have to qualify for it. So they're going to ask you the medical questions. Maybe you have to do a blood test. Maybe a nurse has got to come visit you. And usually they do not cover pre-existing things. Okay? They won't cover the asthma inhalers you already have to pay for, usually. Group benefits, on the other hand, that they'll pay for that too. Okay? No medicals in group insurance. Everybody okay? Okay, good. Just want to make sure we're all with me. I'm a little bit freaked out by the fact that I had 120 people in this class 2 weeks ago, and now there's only 55 of us. But I'm hoping that that means that 70 or so people passed, and they're done now. I'm going to be super optimistic on that. But they should probably be here, just throwing it out there. But that's okay. I'm going to give you guys the effort, or give you guys the excitement, because you guys are here. Now, probably the most complicated thing that comes down to group insurance is how it gets taxed. Okay? The taxation of it. And how the taxation comes down to, whether it's a taxable benefit, whether there's a tax deduction, whether it's tax-free, comes down to who pays the monthly premium and who's going to receive the benefit. Now, more often than not, this concept is going to show up with regards to health insurance, but this applies to any group insurance. Group life, group disability, group critical illness, all of that. Okay, scroll back down for 1 sec. Sure. Scroll down for 15 or so seconds, and I'll put it back down for you. No problem. I don't mind. Gives me a sec to have a gulp of coffee. You got it. Are you good? Francis, you got it? Perfect. Okay. Let's talk about the taxation of group benefits now. Okay? There's usually two different scenarios in here. There's one where the employee pays the premiums themselves. There's one where the employer or the workplace, however, whatever word helps you. I find using the word employee and employer sometimes gets me confused. Okay? Employee, worker, employer, workplace. Okay? And usually the person that receives the benefit is the employee, right? They're the one that gets not full price on their dental stuff or not full price on their prescription drugs, or at least they're not paying the full price, right? So in these two scenarios, I wanted us to be on the same page. When the employee pays the premiums and they receive the benefit from their plan, these two are the same person, okay? In the pays the premium, the employer, the workplace pays it, the employee receives the benefit. These people are different. You might be saying, Eric, I know that already. I'm with you so far. Now, when these are the same, in any example, there is no tax in either one of these slots. No tax. There's no tax back for the employee, but they don't pay any tax at the end of the year because they're paying their premium. Just like when I'm doing my when I'm paying my car insurance, I don't let CRA know that I pay my car insurance. Well, I do now because I get some of it written off, but before, when I was an employee, I didn't. Okay? You don't pay tax at all. There's no tax conversations in the employee paying for it and employee receiving it, right? You don't let CRA know when you buy life insurance either. Okay? In that way. When the employer pays the premium, they're paying something for you to receive, and they're not really getting anything out of it in that way. So they get to tax deduct or do a tax deduction. And what a tax deduction is whatever amount the employer, the workplace, paid for your premiums that year, they get to deduct that off their profits that year. So if they paid $1,000, let's say, for an example, they paid $1,000 in for your insurance premiums, they get to take $1,000 off their profits that year. That's what a tax deduction is. They get to deduct it off their profit for taxes. Now, since the employee is receiving something basically by not, even though they're not paying for it, this is called a taxable benefit in this scenario. This is a benefit that they got from their job that is taxable. That's kind of why the name is that way. How much is the taxable benefit, Eric? It's the same $1,000. So the taxable benefit, let me make it clear here. The taxable benefit isn't on how much you receive from the plan. The taxable benefit is how much they've paid for your plan. They basically deduct $1,000. You have to pay back that $1,000 worth of tax. That's how that works. So these numbers will always be the same. Never different. Whatever they deduct, we add as the employee. That's how that works. Okay? Now, I know someone's probably clacking on the keyboard already, but what if I pay some of it and they pay some of it? Because that happens, right? I pay half, they pay half. Well, whatever part I pay is tax-free. Whatever part they pay is taxable. They get to deduct. So if I'm paying half, they're paying half. Only half of it would be a taxable benefit. Only half of it would get tax deducted. Okay? So let me repeat it for Radha once. So whatever the employer pays in the premiums, they get to deduct. And whatever the employer, the workplace deducted in the place where they paid it, the employee has to add that to their taxes in a taxable benefit. So the numbers will always be the same. What if you're self-employed? Well, then you're paying your own premiums usually, not your business, because you're self-employed. Okay? If Eric's paying his own, well, then I don't pay. I'm in the same scenario as this because I'm the one paying it. You could put self-employed. They're the same person that's receiving it and paying it, so there's no tax in that example, Maria. So basically what I do in these questions, just to make it really clear, simplest as I can do it, if they ask me the taxation of a group plan, I think about this. Who's paying for it? Who's receiving the benefit? Are they the same person? And if the answer to that question is yes, then there's no tax on either side. If they're different people, if the answer to that is no, they're different, then there is tax on both sides for the same amount of money. Boil it down that way. So Aaron put, could we use an example like parking? Company pays $650 a month at the end of the year. That parking is taxable benefit at the full amount. They get to deduct the taxes on that. You will have to pay the taxes on that. So let me put it this way in this example. Eric, you're telling us I could either pay the full premium either by salary deductions or after I get my wage, or I could pay the tax on it at the end of the year, and the employer pays it. Yeah. What does taxable benefit mean? It's a benefit that is taxable, something your company pays for you that they deducted off their taxes. That's what a taxable benefit means. Okay? All right. This might not be 100% clear the first time you see it, and that's okay. But I want you to iron it down this way when they get to the questions. Who's paying for it? Who's receiving the money? Are they the same person? Because if the answer to that is yes, then you don't need to get complicated. No taxes. It only gets complicated when they're different. So don't overcomplicate up front. For those of you that maybe haven't been with me a couple classes yet, you'll know when you're with me a couple classes. I don't get complicated with the question until I need to get complicated. I keep it simple as much as I can. Everybody okay? Okay, I'm going to talk about riders now. We're going to talk about a couple add-ons on here. First of all, I'm going to talk what a rider is, okay? A rider is an add-on or a customization of the insurance that they get added to. Okay? So either they add more coverage or they customize the coverage. Very good example. If I were to buy my niece, who she's about 4, a bike, a pedal bike, and I decided to buy a couple add-ons on it. I want to put training wheels on it. I want to put streamers on it. I put a basket on it, a bell on it, whatever on it. There's a couple things that does. One, it costs me more money. So anytime you add a rider on it, it's more coverage, which means you pay more money for it. 2, I have to put it on at the beginning, right? Is it easier for me to put the streamers and the training wheels on the bike before I give it to my niece or after I give it to my niece? Right? It's probably easier to do it before. And so you always put the riders on at the start. Okay? They add extra coverage, they cost more money, and you have to put them on at the start. Now let's talk about them. Let's talk about a couple. The first one I'm going to talk about is a rider called accidental death and dismemberment. Now, when we go through this, I want to make sure we're clear. When I give you an opinion on something as you go through this course, I'm not talking on behalf of WFG or your field trainers. I'm not talking on behalf of Oliver's Learning. I'm talking on behalf of Eric's personal opinion. And my personal opinion of accidental death and dismemberment coverage is it's garbage. Not very good. Let me explain to you why. What accidental death and dismemberment coverage is to pay money if you die from an accident or are dismembered, like lose an arm, lose a leg, lose an eye from an accident. I asked the question to the group saying, how do you know if you're going to die from an accident or not? The answer would be, I don't know if I'm going to die from an accident or not. And that's true. So does that mean that this insurance isn't guaranteed to pay out? That's exactly what I'm saying. It'll only pay out if it's an accident, just like the lottery will only pay out if you win. It's kind of like the lottery of insurance. I'll get it if this, but if that happens, not get it every time. The other thing about accidental death I'll mention is there's a 365-day window on this. What the 365-day window is when you get in an accident, you have to die or be dismembered by that accident within a year of it happening. Otherwise, you get nothing. So, Eric, you're saying if I get in an accident today, October 20th, and I die from that accident October 21st, 2023, or later, I get no money? Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. So it's not even that it pays out only if you get in an accident. It only pays out if you die within a year of the accident. Guys, I got hit in the face when I played baseball when I was a kid. 11 years old, I got hit in the face. I got a bunch of teeth knocked out. I got a bunch of dental surgery done. But I got a little bit of dental surgery done the first year. But I had a lot of dental surgery done the 5th, 10th year from that. How much money did my parents get 5 years down the road? 0 from one of these. Because it was only what came up within the year. Okay? So it only runs for that year. It will only pay out if you die or are dismembered within 1 year of the accident caused by the accident. So not that great. Second one, I'd rather get life insurance that's going to pay me no matter why I die, no matter when I die. But that's just me, right? If you start with a basic plan, disability with no riders, are you able to add them on later, or do you need a new policy? Good answer, good question, Billy. If you have a basic plan and you want to add riders onto a disability policy, you can't. You would have to buy a new disability policy, add the riders onto the new one, and cancel the old one if you really wanted those. Okay. Radha, there's no renewal with accidental death and dismemberment. We're not talking about term insurance right now. This is just an add-on customization to health insurance. The second one on here is travel insurance. Accidental death and dismemberment sits, you pay for it every single month, Radha, and then when you get in an accident, the 365-day window kicks in. And if anything happens after the year from the accident, it doesn't pay you anything. If something does happen within that year of the accident, then they do pay you. That's what the 365 means. I'm bringing it up so in the test, if they give you an example of someone that got hurt and they died X day, do they still get their accidental death benefit? If it's over a year, the answer is no. If it's within a year, the answer is yes. Just so you can have that answer on that question. Now you can add travel insurance on top of your health insurance, okay? This is not trip cancellation. This is not baggage claim. This is medical only travel insurance. So this is only will cover you if you get sick or injured outside of where you live. Now, remember, every time you add riders on, you're adding more payment on there, more coverage, more money. Does life insurance cover dismemberment or significant loss of injury? Well, if you add specific customizations on life insurance, it can. But we're going to move forward from that. Okay? Here's one thing that I'll mention to everybody. If you're curious about how these insurances we go through today work in your personal situation, I want you to sit down with your field trainer because they'll show you. And the one thing I would hate for anyone in the meeting to do is to wait until you're licensed to go get any coverage, because you want to make sure you get paid on it or something along those lines. Because I've had agents that have been on our team that have wanted to wait until they're licensed, and unfortunately they passed away before they got licensed, and so they never got covered. Like I'll tell the quick story. I was 21 and my 23-year-old friend just didn't wake up one day. Their potassium levels spiked when they were sleeping, and they just stopped breathing. Nobody knew why. So as healthy as we are, it can happen. So just throwing it out there. Just get coverage while you can, because sometimes you might not later. Cost of waiting. Okay, moving on from health insurance. We've talked about it plenty. We're moving on to critical illness. Or CI. Here's a tip for searching. If you're searching CI, I'm giving you the acronym so you can search it in the textbook. If you're searching CI in the textbook, you're going to see every word that has C and I in it. And that's hard to look through. That's going to be lots of things. So if you want to find CI by itself in your search bar, add a space after and before CI, and it'll just show CI in the search bar. It's a good tip for anyone who's looking that up. Critical illness is a one-time lump sum payout. If you get sick or you get an illness, I'll put, because they have specific illnesses, okay? It's not if you just get a cold. These are usually life-threatening illnesses, okay? There's two different types of critical illness policies that are in this course. There are 4 illness versions and 25 illness versions. The 4 illnesses covered in the 4 illness one are heart attack, stroke, cancer, and coronary artery bypass. What happens to policy after the payment? Not sure exactly what that means, but maybe I'll answer that as we go through, okay? These illnesses, they will expect you to know already, are covered in the 4. So I would write those down if you weren't writing them down before now. Heart attack, stroke, cancer, coronary artery bypass. If you don't know what coronary artery bypass is, let me give you a little bit of an idea. Your artery, which is the vein, well, not the vein, the tube basically to your heart to bring blood back, is clogged, and so they reroute it into one that's not. Very complicated surgery, but simple explanation. But there it is. Okay? Is everybody ready to write down the other 21 conditions? Because we're going to go through for the 25. Everybody ready? I'm not going to go through those. Are you kidding me? That's so many. No. You don't need to know the rest, so we're not going to go through them. Okay? My goal is to teach you to equip you to pass the test, not to memorize 21 extra conditions. It's okay. Breathe. It's okay. They will tell you, anyone other than those 4, they will tell you whether they're covered or not, but they're going to assume you know those 4. A couple things to mention here, though. If you get a 4 illness policy, let's say I get a 4 illness policy and Sarah gets a 25 illness policy. Who's paying more money for their insurance? Me or Sarah? Well, Sarah would be, because she's covered for 21 more illnesses than I am. More coverage, more money. So you might be saying, well, Eric, why would someone only get covered for 4 illnesses rather than the full 25? Because it's cheaper to get the 4 illness version than the 25 one. More coverage, more money. Okay? Now, a couple things to mention about critical illness here. There's a couple time frames that we're going to talk about. But I'm assuming Pauline asked what happens after critical illness pays out the money. You stop paying for it because the coverage is like life insurance. Once it pays out, it's done. No paying for it every month. It pays out. But I'm going to talk about how and when it pays out. Okay? The first time frame you got to keep in mind is the qualification period, which is 30 days usually. At least in this course it is. Okay? What the qualification period is on critical illness is the first 30 days of you having a critical illness policy, you actually cannot claim for any illnesses. They're not technically covered until after the first 30 days. So you're not technically covered until the 31st day. Now, some of us might be saying, well, why is that? And let me explain it in an example, okay? Insurance companies don't put all these things in there just to make sure they don't pay, right? I hear this pretty often. Well, they're just putting it in there because it's a money grab and they don't want to pay out the money. But let me give you an example of what insurance companies have to go through sometimes. Eric has a little bit of left chest pain, and it shoots down my arm, and I get a little bit worried. So I call Carrie, my life insurance lady, and I say, hey, can I get that critical illness heart attack stuff that you were talking about? She's like, yeah, sure, let's do it. We go through all the paperwork. It has, have you ever been diagnosed or treated for heart issues? And I check, no. Then 2 weeks from now, I go and talk to my doctor, and I say, chest pain, left side, my arm. They're like, okay, let's do some tests. And then it turns out that I had a heart attack, and it shows. And so then guess who I call? I call my significant other, and then I call Carrie, and I say, Carrie, show me the money. And unfortunately, that's happened enough times that the insurance company said, we're going to put a 30-day period at the start where people are not covered so they don't get covered for pre-existing conditions. That's what this is for. Is so people that have something pre-existing, which means before they bought the insurance, problems are not covered. That's what that's there for. So once someone gets to 30 days, they're covered after that. Qualification period's over. The second time frame I want you to keep in mind is the survival period. You could also call this a waiting period, which they'll call it a waiting period in disability. This can be 30 days or longer. How much are the premiums? I don't know. Depends on your... Let's talk about premiums after this. I'll talk about the premiums after. So 30 and 30, yes. But survival period can be longer than 30 days, Randy. I'm going to explain that. Don't worry. Okay? So survival period, what this is when you do get sick, you have to survive for 30 days to get the payout. Well, Eric, what happens if I die during the first 30 days, though, during the survival period? Well, you won't get the critical illness payout, but you hopefully will get your life insurance payout, because that's what it's there for. That's supposed to be there when you live/die. Life insurance, or at least insurance in general, is more of a jigsaw puzzle than it is just layering everything on top of each other. Okay? There's areas that it fits in perfectly to cover that need. The first thing we talked about today in the accident sickness module is this is a living benefit. It benefits you while you're living. So this is made to pay you out while you're living to help pay for medical expenses. You know, prepping things if you're not gonna live, spending it on whatever you want. But this is to pay you while you're living. Now, someone might say, Eric, what if I die on the 31st day? Well, the money's coming then, but it might not go to you because you're not there. Now, the whole 30 days or longer conversation, you can opt to make your survival period longer than 30 days. Okay? So, you can also call this a waiting period because they wait to get the payment for 30 days, right? If you opt to make your survival period longer, say 60 days, or your survival period 60 days, that means that you actually get less coverage. And let me give you an example. Let's say Jennifer and I both bought a critical illness policy. Mine was 30 days, hers was 60 days. Okay? And we both got sick and we both passed away at 45 days. Jennifer hit her 30 days, she got her payout. I didn't hit my 60 days, I don't get my payout. So the longer survival period, the longer waiting period is actually less coverage, which means it's actually less money per month. So sometimes they'll say, this client has this, and this coverage. We want to lower the premium. How do we go about that? A lot of the time the answer is to extend the waiting period, the survival period of the policy. Because it won't lower how much coverage they have. It'll lower how long it takes to get paid that coverage. Hopefully that makes sense. Now, Bailey put, if you use the same example for heart attack, even if you had no previous health issues, because you get diagnosed with heart attack in the 30 days, you won't get covered. Yes, Billy, correct. The first 30 days you own the critical illness, you are not covered for that. Now, some might say, Eric, when does the survival period start? Does it start from the day I tell them, or is it the day I was hospitalized? The answer is the day you were hospitalized. Because sometimes you're going to be in the hospital for, 30 to 60 days, and you can't tell them. Okay? Can I slow down for a second? I would love to, but we still have a ton of stuff to go through. This is often why people come back for a second time. I'll slow down a little bit. I'll try my best, but I got to make sure that we get through everything that we need to get through today. Okay? We spent a lot of time on health insurance through the questions, and we still have a ton of stuff to go through. No problem. It's okay. Does everybody have this written down? Okay. And if we need to go back to something, Cassandra, let's say that you need to go back to something at the end of today, I can go back in 5-10 minutes after and go back if you need. Waiting period starts from diagnosis date. Yes, diagnosis date, technically. Okay. You got it. I screenshot it. So of the screenshotting conversation, the same thing with the recording conversation, I'm technically not allowed to give you permission to do that, but I technically can't stop you from screenshotting. So take that however your conversation goes. However you take that. All right. Let's talk about a couple riders, add-ons that you can put on a critical illness, or at least one of them at least. It's okay, Randy. I can't stop you from doing it. You can. I just can't say, yes, do it, because I'm not allowed to create any of my own content, just like I can't give you the recordings of these meetings. The recordings are for me. Okay? The first rider, and probably the only rider, is return of premium. That really is going to get talked about with critical illness in the course. ROP. Okay. Now, what return of premium is if you have a policy and you don't end up getting sick, you get some money back from the plan as a return of premium. Now, good example, I have a return of premium critical illness policy that I own. I got it when I was 19, when I first got introduced to WFG. I pay $38 a month for it, and if I get to age, I think 65 without getting sick, I'm going to get about 36-ish thousand back. Something like that. So it's kind of like forced savings, because if I get sick, I get 50 grand. If I don't get sick, I get 38 grand. Whatever it ends up being. But the thing I want to mention about that is my insurance cost was $12 per month. So I pay an extra $25 on top of that to get that return of premium. I basically tripled my cost of insurance for that. So we're going to go through a lot of good and add-ons and riders as you go through, but just remember, every time you add a feature on top of it, it adds more coverage on top of it, or it adds more cost on top of it. More coverage, more money. Let's talk about the money, because someone keeps asking about how much it costs. Let's talk about this, okay? Critical illness or any type of insurance the whole way through depends on a couple places how much it's going to charge you. 1, your age. 2, are you a smoker or non-smoker? 3, what's your gender? Actually pays a price. And then how good is your health, technically? But that's health on all of them, right? When they go through all the health questions, if you're not healthy, you are going to pay more than someone that's healthy. If you're older, you're going to pay more than someone that's younger. That's why my cost of insurance when I was 19 was $12. I was really healthy and really young. But there is one issue, or not issue, one variable just with critical illness, that if they bring it up, it only matters with critical illness whether they consider you risky or not, and that's your family history. So Radha, if we talk specifically about is critical illness costly, for me when I was 19 and young, no. For someone else that's 40 and unhealthy, yes. So it could be anywhere between that spectrum. Okay? It's kind of like asking me, is auto insurance cheap? Well, it depends on how many tickets you have, how many accidents you've been in, how's your driving record, how's your age, what type of car do you have, how much does a car cost, etc. It's really hard for me to give like a yes or no answer to that answer. Lots of variables. Okay? But in family history, plays only a part in critical illness. If they bring that up in the test, I want you to think, oh, if they ask me about that, it's only going to impact critical illness. I get that in real life. Family history can play into a couple areas. I get that. But on the course, critical illness or no. Okay? Everybody got that down? Okay, great. You don't have to be sorry, it's fine. There's just no straight answer I can give you on that. Okay? We're moving past critical illness. We're done with critical illness for now. We're moving forward. Okay? We're going to move on to disability insurance. Disability insurance is a little bit more complicated, so we're going to be spending a little bit more time on it. Disability insurance, or DI. Okay? And just remember, I'm teaching a summarized version of the content. This is not by no means everything about everything in this module. But I'm equipping you with enough knowledge to be able to go past the test. That's for sure. Okay? So sometimes you're like, I want to learn more about that. Hey, like that's awesome. You can go study on that. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. So, disability insurance, it's not a one-time lump sum payout like critical illness is. This is a monthly payout while someone's disabled, while unable to work, I guess I could say. Okay? So, this means when you're disabled or you can't work, it will pay you the disability. If you go back to work, it'll stop paying you, but then you could technically go back on disability again. It's not like critical illness where it's a one-time shot. Critical illness, you get sick, it pays all the money out and then the policy goes away. Critical illness, since it pays monthly, it'll stick around even after it's paid you some. Now, sometimes there's a maximum to how much it'll pay you before the policy's over. There's always usually maximums on it. But that's for individual customized plans for each client. There's no hard and fast exact number. How much coverage you can buy? You can only buy up to 60% of your gross income in coverage. And if you're curious what gross means, it just means total. Or you can just substitute the word total in there. So that means if I was working, earning $100,000 at my job, I could only buy up to $60,000 a year of disability insurance. And I get feedback sometimes. Eric, that's weird. I need every dollar that I'm earning. Why are they only going to give me 60% of it? And the reason is because they want to incentivize you to go back to work and incentivize you to get better, do your physio, and go back to work. Because unfortunately, a lot of us take the path of least resistance, which is if they're going to pay me every dollar to sit on my couch and watch TV as they are to go work, what's my incentive to go work, right? Unfortunately, and some people resist the idea of that. That's the truth, but how many of us in the room would say that we knew someone during the CERB era that took that $2,000 a month CERB even though they could have worked during that time? I could put my hand up like 3 or 4 times because I know 3 or 4 people. And that's kind of my point. Unfortunately, there are certain people that want something for nothing. And I'm not saying that they're bad people, but I'm saying that we need to almost monetarily incentivize people to work sometimes, don't we? Right? My father used to work at the Workers' Compensation Board of Alberta. Love him or hate him. Don't worry, he was in audits. He wasn't in claims. He made sure your work paid enough money, not whether you got paid. Right? So maybe don't get upset with me. But he told me so many stories of people that couldn't go to work their desk job that were landscaping on the weekends. That they sent private investigators and they took pictures of them renovating their kitchen while they were disabled and unable to work. And it's just unfortunate because people that kind of scam the system in that way often create those really tight rules that end up maybe not favoring the normal people, right? And so unfortunately, sometimes it seems like they never want to pay it out, but the answer is they don't want to pay out ones they shouldn't be paying out, right? At one point in my career, I went and learned about home insurance. And I'll say this example. And there is an example in home insurance where a client claimed his priceless or his really expensive cigars all got burnt up in a fire. And the fire was him smoking them. And he won. Because they didn't have any words in there that said it couldn't be burnt up in a controlled fire. And so he got his payout. But then the city found out from the insurance company that he was having a controlled fire in a residential building, an apartment, and so they ended up charging him for that. And he ended up paying triple what he got from his cigars in fines. Hey, what goes around comes around. But unfortunately, that just means that people will try so hard to get things for free, unfortunately. And so money needs to be incentivized. That's why they only do 60%. So there's a reason for them to go back to work, monetarily speaking. It's there to keep you afloat, not help you thrive, if that makes sense. Okay? All right. Now, I talked about with critical illness, there was the age, gender, smoking status play a part to how much money you pay, or whether you're seen as risky or not, and health history. Disability has different ones as well that only apply to disability. Your occupation matters to them. Your past disabilities matter to them. Because if you work in an office or you work in an underground diamond mine, those are two dramatically different risk profiles based on your occupation. And so the person who works in an underground diamond mine will usually pay more for their coverage, or they might even get declined for coverage from that insurance company because they're not willing to take on that risk of that person. Or people that have back issues already have more likely to have back issues in the future than people that don't. So people with past disabilities with back issues are usually going to pay more or be potentially declined due to their past disability histories. Okay? Now, I want to make sure that we register this because I guess I didn't mention it. The whole gender aspect of how much money we pay is different depending. The female gender pays more for living benefits, so this module, the male gender pays more for life insurance. It's not because the male gender goes, hey, hold my beer, watch this, which I guess that could play into it, right? But no, it's all statistics. Okay? Statistically, female gender claims more in disability, critical illness, long-term care. Usually, statistically, the males pay more in life insurance. Something like that. Okay? It's all statistics. There's no prejudices, I guess is a way to look at it. Now let's talk about the different types of disability policies now. Let's get a little deeper in here. I'm going to go from least expensive to most expensive, and then I'm going to talk about how you're going to see them in the test and how you're going to get them right every time during the test. Because my whole goal is to take complicated things and make it simple and digestible. It's really easy to make simple things really complicated. It's not easy to make complicated things feel simple. And that's what we're going to do. So there's 3 different types of disability policies, and you have to pick which one they are when you buy it. And you can't change it once you pick one. Okay? The first one is called a cancelable disability policy. The way cancelable disability policies work is the insurance company can raise the price at any time or cancel on you at any time. I guess my computer might have went into night mode. I don't know if it just went from like really light blue to like a warm blue to you. Or a warm white. I just saw my screen color change. So in a cancel policy, they can raise the price on you at any time, or they can cancel on you at any time. And I don't mean that they're going to say, you know what, Fawaz, we don't like you, we're canceling you. No, we're not going to do that. They pick like a segment of people, 20 to 45-year-old taxi drivers, or 40 to 65-year-old females. They'll bump it up for a specific section of people, not one or two specific people. Okay, does that make sense? Or they'll cancel a section of people, not a specific person. Okay? The second one is, in the middle, is called guaranteed renewable. And in this one, the price can change at any time, but they can't cancel on you at any time. So they can raise the price on 20 to 40-year-old taxi drivers, but they can't cancel 20 to 40-year-old taxi drivers. So you're paying a little bit more to have the guaranteed it's going to stay there side of it. And then the last one, the most expensive up front, is called a non-cancelable policy, where they can make no changes. They can't raise the price, they can't cancel on you, the price is the price is the price the whole way through. So you pay more up front to lock that in. Okay? Now, the naming scheme of this is really, in my opinion, kind of dumb in a way. Because they have cancelable as like the not so good one, they have non-cancelable as like the best one, and then they have the word guarantee in the middle, which usually guarantees mean it's the best. So here's how I want you to remember them. I want you to just memorize cancelable and non-cancelable, and it'll get you where you need to go every time. Cancelable is going to be the bad one. Non-cancelable is the good one of the two. And then everything else is in the middle. Because here's what's going to happen. Some questions are going to give you 3 different people. Let's say Karen, Catherine, and me all get disability policies. I got a letter in the mail saying, Eric, no thanks, but no thanks, we're no longer going to cover you. Karen got a letter in the mail saying that her price is going up, and Catherine didn't get a letter in the mail. Well, Eric got the bad one, Catherine got the good one, and Karen's in the middle. It's easy as that. And you slot them in those places. It's that easy. Or you're reading through and they say, Eric got a letter mail and they're no longer going to cover him. Well, Eric got canceled. He got the bad one. Cancelable. It can be that easy. Okay? This is all disability insurance. Yes. And you have to pick which one of these when you buy that disability insurance policy. You got it. Only for disability policies, yes. Okay, everybody got this down? Awesome, awesome. Just looking at everything else we gotta get through. Okay, making sure I'm on pace. Let's talk about the next bit. There's other options you have to choose as well. So there's no cancelable CI. No. This is all disability specific. We left CI already. We already talked about everything to do with CI so far. Okay? Now, these options, you have to choose one of these 3 options when you buy the policy. Just like cancelable, non-cancelable, guaranteed renewable. But what these mean, these are also called definitions in the textbook of disability. I like using the word options. It makes more sense to me. And what these are is, this is the, if I get hurt, then I have to get a new job after I'm off disability. do I still get paid my disability? They answer this question. So if I say it one more time, they get hurt at their job, they get disabled, they have to go get a new job. So usually a lower paying job. Do I still get paid my disability? That's what these determine. Yes, no, maybe, right? That's what these determine. So this is like if I had a construction job, I was making $100,000 at my construction job, I got hurt there, I was disabled there for a couple of years, I can no longer do construction anymore, I have to go find a different job. Do I still receive my disability or not? Okay, I'm gonna write them all down and I'm gonna explain them all together. The cheapest one is called any occupation. The middle one is called regular occupation. The last one is called own occupation. I'm going to explain them all together, and then how you're going to discern them in the text or in the test. Okay? Any occupation, the way any occupation works, is if you can go get any other job, they will stop paying you your disability. Now, I picked my words really specific there on purpose. It's not, are you working at another job? It's, can you work at another job? Are you capable of working another job? So this person could be capable of working another job, but not working and still receiving nothing. Okay? This person could be not working and receiving nothing. And usually that's what comes up in the textbook. This person will always in the test be receiving none of their disability, working or not. Because whether they're working or capable of working, they will not receive anything from this. Regular occupation, they will receive some of their disability if they earn less than they were before. I'll circle back after. Regular occupation will pay that person some of the money they earn from their disability, but not all of it because they're working a job, but they're making less. So they will still top up that amount that they're earning a little bit. So this person in the test will always be receiving some of their disability, but not all of it. Okay? And they will be working. The own occupation person. What own occupation is you get paid all of your disability until you can work that job you bought it for again. This is for professionals, surgeons, doctors, lawyers. It's expensive, so it's not for the faint of heart. If, let's say, a surgeon buys an own occupation policy, and let's say they broke both their hands like Doctor Strange. They can't do surgery anymore, okay? It doesn't matter what job they do after that. If they cannot be a surgeon, they will get paid all of the own occupation. They could go be a surgeon, like they could go teach surgery as a professor, and they would still get paid all of the money because they can't be a surgeon. And if they could never be a surgeon again, this will pay them all of it until the policy either expires or when they can be a surgeon again. Okay, so the policy said it'll only pay for 5 years, it'll pay the full 5 years. If it said it's going to pay till age 65, it'll pay to age 65. Okay? Now let me circle back. The any occupation person will always be receiving none of the disability in the question. The regular occupation person will always be receiving some of the disability and working. Their own occupation person will be working and receiving all of their disability. That's how they will always look in every question. So, any occupation, whether you're working or not, but you're capable of working, they pay you nothing. Regular occupation, if you're working and earning less than you were before, they'll pay you some of your disability, but not all of it. Own occupation, If you can't do the job you bought it for, they give you everything until you can do that job again. And if that's never, then it goes to expiry. Kimberly asked, does WCB and EI pay before disability insurance? The answer to that question is yes. But on the test, anytime they bring up WCB or EI, I want you to search it. Because government plans are hard for you to wrap your head around because it's if this and that, but this, depending on this. Don't try and memorize it. Just look it up every time. For any occupation, if a person's not capable of work, they're still getting disability money. If you're not capable of work, you are going to receive your disability out of any single one of these because there's no way you can work. That's considered totally disabled. You receive everything. Okay? This is if you get hurt and you go, and then you can go back into the working force. If you can't do that, then you receive everything. Okay? Hopefully that all makes sense. Are we good? Yeah. All right. We're going to get into the riders now, the add-ons to disability. And there's a bunch, so we're going to go through a few. And I'm going to preface everybody, those of us who haven't been through accident sickness with me before, we're going to get to a point where we're going to do some math. But don't worry, I'm going to use playground equipment to explain math, and it's going to make sense and be right every single time. So if you're maybe not a math person, trust me, it'll be fun. Okay? So we're going to move on to riders here. Add-ons to disability. Remember, riders have to get added on when you buy the policy, and they're going to cost money every time you add one on. You can get, well, let's talk about a few we have already. Accidental death and dismemberment. Garbage coverage. Thing you got to keep in mind, 365 days. You have to die or be dismembered due to the accident within a year of the accident, or you get paid nothing. Second one we already talked about, return of premium. You can get return of premium on disability. So if you don't get disabled, you get some money back. Now I know someone might be asking, well, Eric, how much money do you get back? Well, some companies will pay you all, some will pay you half, some will pay you more than all. In the textbook it says anywhere from, I think, 50% to 4 times the amount you put in. So you don't need to know what the number is, you just need to know it's something. Okay? They're going to get something back. Let me talk about return of premium for one more statement. In the test, if there's a client that needs return of premium, they will say something like this. I don't want to pay for insurance and get nothing out of it if I don't get injured, if I don't get sick. That's a return of premium client. Because either they're going to get sick and get money, or get injured and get money, or they're not going to get sick or injured and they're going to get some money at the end. So either way, they're going to get something. So if a client says, I don't want to pay for insurance and get nothing later, return of premium. That's a perfect return of premium client. Okay? Now let's talk about some new ones. The first one I'm going to talk about is presumptive disability. This is if you go blind, or if you go deaf, or if you lose a limb, like an arm or a leg. Okay? Accidental death and dismemberment pays a specific amount of money when you lose a limb or something like that. Okay? Presumptive disability, it's not a lump sum amount of money, it's a monthly amount of money. So the presumption, which is the word that why they call it presumptive, is kind of they're assuming that you can't do your job as well as you normally would because you went blind, because you went deaf, or because you lost a limb. Now let me make this super clear for everybody. You can't buy this if you're already blind, deaf, or lost a limb already. They're not going to pay it to you. Let me make it one step clearer. You can't buy critical illness if you're sick with one of the critical illnesses. You can't buy disability insurance if you're disabled, and you can't buy life insurance if you're dead. Right? Even though the movies make it think that you can, in real life you can't. So if I know someone who's blind, could they get the presumptive disability? Well, maybe, but they wouldn't get paid for being blind. They might only get paid if something else happened after that. Okay? Only if they get sick after that. Or they get blind or lose a limb. Okay? Monthly money, not lump sum money like accidental death and dismemberment. Everyone get what I'm putting down? Can I get some thumbs up from my non-video friends? I just want to make sure that you guys are all there. Yeah. Sometimes I just like to check. Because I can see all the video people. And I appreciate them having their video on. But I can't see all of you. Alright, good. Appreciate that. I know how it is. Sometimes I don't have my video on in meetings. And I'll tell you this. I don't pay attention as good without my video on sometimes. Especially in a class like this, because you know that I'm watching you. Right? Like I can see what everybody's doing. I know Jerry's in a purple room. Or anything like that. Okay, that's fine. Don't worry, I'm not creeping on you. I just like having a conversation with other people rather than talking to myself at a camera. All right. Now we're going to dive into some new ones, some interesting ones. Okay? When you have disability insurance, it's an all or nothing thing. Accidental death and ROP are lump sums. Yes. Correct. When you're getting disability insurance, it's kind of an all or nothing thing. You're disabled or you're not. Okay? If you're disabled, you're receiving disability. If you're not disabled, you're not receiving disability. That's usually the way it goes. Other than that regular occupation, working and receiving some of the money sometimes, if you earn less. Okay? It's an all or nothing thing. So, these two riders allow you to increase how much disability coverage you have without having to prove your health again. Because when you buy all these policies, critical illness, disability, health insurance, if you're buying them individually for you, you have to go through the health questions, the hard questions, the potentially blood tests, urine tests, weight, all these things. Okay? Yes, Radha, that is true. But when you buy these two policies, or these two riders, right, there's two, you can increase how much insurance coverage you have without having to go prove your health again. Because usually, if you want to increase your coverage, you do. If I want to go increase how much disability I have, I could go buy another policy, or I could increase the one I already have. Both of those situations without these two riders cause you to go through medicals again. It's really easy for insurance companies to reduce your coverage, but it's hard for them to increase your coverage. You usually have to prove something, prove your health still. Why? Because usually doing an increase between you and I is because you know something that they don't know. Usually people buy more insurance when they get closer to being sick, passing away. They always wish they had more. Let's talk about these two riders, okay? The first one is called cost of living adjustment. The acronym is COLA. The second one is called future purchase option. Or FPO. Okay? When you have normal disability insurance, you have to buy another one or prove medicals if you want to increase it. With each of these riders, you do not have to prove medicals, but they work differently. Cost of living adjustment is a percentage increase every year, automatically. So let's say I have $1,000 worth of coverage per month this year. Next year, if I wanted to increase it by, say, 2%, it will go up to $1,020 per month. Then it will go up to $1,040 per month, and then slowly but surely, every year, it would increase by 2%. Now, if my coverage increases, what happens to my monthly premium? It also increases. More coverage, more money for that. Okay? So every year, cost of living adjustment my coverage and my premium would go up. Future purchase option, on the other hand, this is a lump sum increase. So it's a triggerable one. So where cost of living, it seems like the percentage goes up a little bit every single year. Future purchase is a jump in coverage, whether that be $500 more, 50% more, double it, something like that. Cost of living adjustment is better for salaried employees. If they know that their salary is going to go up by 3% every year, they can choose 3% every year. And yes, Kimberly, they get to choose. Future purchase option is better for business owners, because business owners, they might go from making nothing to making something very quickly. Okay, because they usually in the first 5 years they don't make a profit because they're putting money into their business, and then all of a sudden they make a bunch of money. So future purchase, you qualify for it up front, you're paying extra money every month, and they can make a jump in coverage without having to prove medicals. It will get auto approved. Now let me say this. There's only one verification that they check with future purchase option. They make sure you're earning more money, because you can't go over that 60% of your gross income limit. So you would have to be making more money for them to do a future purchase increase. But you will not have to provide medical underwriting again. What does future purchase mean? You're purchasing more disability coverage. Okay? So this, if I break down the name, it's the option to purchase more disability in the future without having to prove medicals. That's a good way to look at it. Is it a one-time thing? No, you can make multiple increases, Jennifer. But every time you're going to have to prove you make more money. But you never have to prove your health. You could go from marathon runner to cancer survivor, and they will approve the increase because you have this rider on it. So they'll talk about, in the question, they'll say something along the lines of, this person bought insurance when they were healthy, now they got in a car accident, they're wheelchair bound, they want to increase their disability coverage. Can they? Yes. With future purchase option, they could. Because their health isn't coming into play. And I would tell you, between cost of living and future purchase option, there are probably 3 to 4 questions on every single cert that you're probably ever going to take. And so the certs are 30 questions. And if it's on 3 questions in that cert, what's the percentage of your mark that is? That's 10% of your test. So we need to wrap our head around this. Cost of living, automatic increase every year, no medicals. Future purchase, lump sum increase, no medicals. But I need to make more money to prove it. Everybody with me? Okay, good. Keep on going. We're going to talk about 2 more riders on here, okay? Now, I'm going to re-talk about this disability all or nothing conversation. This is why I didn't answer it right away. Usually with disability insurance, if you're disabled and you can't work at all, you receive all of your disability payments. You get that 60%, all of it. If you're working, usually you get none of it. It's you're working or you're not. You're disabled or you're not. Black and white. Okay? The 2 riders I'm going to talk about now will pay you if you can work part of the time, but you're partly disabled. So somewhere in that middle of the gray area. Because usually it's an all or nothing thing. The first one is called partial disability. So if I buy a partial disability rider, because these are all add-ons to disability still, this will pay me 50% of my benefit if I can only work part of the time. So half. If I have a $1,000 policy, if I'm fully disabled, it pays me $1,000. If I get hurt, now I can only work part of the time, it will pay me half, $500 a month. So if I go from working out in the field in construction to working in the office because I hurt myself, I'm only working 3 days a week, not 5. this will pay me half of my disability. 500 of the 1,000. Is everyone wrapping their head around this? Okay. This one is always 50%, always half, every time, no exceptions. If you can work only part of the time because you're partly disabled, partial disability will always pay you half every time. Okay? That's it. That's all. Always half. The second one here is called residual disability. And this is based on a percentage of loss. Okay, so we got a couple people that are having a tough time splitting between the two. Okay, let's go back to this. I want to make sure that we get this. Here's the difference. In the definitions, this is if you go get a new job, different job, other than the one you were doing. What we're talking about in partial and residual rider is if you stay at the same job, but you can only work part-time now. So it's not you changing jobs. These options in here, these definitions, this is you have a job, but you change jobs because you were disabled. Partial and residual disability is if you stay in the same job, but you can only work part of the time now because you're partly disabled. So they're different. One will pay you if you go get a new job, any regular own. This will pay you if you stay at your job but can only work some of the time. Hopefully that cleared that up for you guys. So, here's the thing. Residual disability rider, and I'll say this in words for those of us that are math people. How many would say that I like math, I'm good at math, I could probably handle the math? Great. How many people say, I hate math, I don't like math, teach it to me easy? Yeah, so the math people in the room, you probably don't need my help. But the people who don't like math probably do. So I'm going to lean into helping the people that aren't good at math. But I'm going to explain it to the math people once in words. And if it wraps around your head when you hear it, you'll be the math people. Whatever percentage they lose of their income is the percentage of the disability they get. And if you understood what I said, then you're the math person. If you didn't understand what I said, then don't do the math. I'm going to teach you a 3-step method that gets you the right answer every single time anyway. So breathe fresh air. We're okay. Let's go through the question. So basically residual is depending on how much they're working is depending on how much they're getting. So partial residual, are they going back to the same job? Yes, exactly. But only some of the time. Okay, here's the question. Eric was working full-time. And he earned $100,000 a year at his full-time job. He got hurt. Or sorry, before he got hurt, he bought a $60,000 policy per year. That's 60%. If I got fully disabled, I would get paid $60,000 per year. I got hurt at my job. Now I can only work part-time, earning $30,000 per year. How much residual does Eric get? Now for the math people, I don't want you to ruin it for everybody because I'm going to show them 5 different options of what they might show up in the multiple choice test. And we're going to go through the 3 steps. So here we go. A, they might pay 0. B, they might pay $60,000. C, they might pay $30,000. D, they might pay $42,000. E, they might pay $24,000. Now here, I'm going to go through a 3-step process that'll get you the right answer every single time in these questions. Because here's the thing. How many of us would probably say that I've answered some multiple choice questions in my day where I feel like the test has beaten me in how they built it? How they wrote it, whatever. I'd say we're going to hit those questions. I'm going to teach you how to beat the test in this scenario. You're going to use the multiple choice for you to get the answer right. Okay? Now, I just want to make sure everybody's with me in this sense. I don't want anybody to answer in the chat, please, until we go through the process. Okay? Some of you have been here before. It's fine. I see a couple answers in already. We're just going to wait for a second because I got to make sure that everybody's with me. Okay? One thing I've noticed about the chat, maybe I'll throw this out here for the group, is sometimes the chat can be distracting for some people. So if you want to be messaging me continuously throughout the way, the best thing to do is to send them direct to me sometimes, so it's not as distractive. Okay? Now, I just want to make sure we get this clear because this is probably the most complicated thing in this entire module, and if we're focused on the chat, we're going to miss it. So here we go. Does everyone understand the concept that when you get partially disabled, so you can't work all the time, you are going to get some of your disability, part of it. So you're not going to get all of it, you're not going to get none of it, you're going to get some of it, somewhere in the middle. Is everyone with me on that? Okay. The first step in this process is you eliminate the all or nothing answer. Because like we just said, you're not going to get all and you're not going to get none of the policy. Right? Of this 60,000. So that means the answer is not going to be 0 and it's not going to be the full 60,000. That's step 1. And that might eliminate 2 out of the 4 answers right away. So now you only got 2 left in that multiple choice answer. Now you may be saying, Eric, you gave us 5 answers. There's only 4 on the test. I know. I'm giving you all 5 possibilities. Okay? We go down to step 2. You eliminate the half. In the residual questions, because this is residual, it's on a sliding scale of how much money, it'll never be half because half is partial disability, always 50%. And they need to make sure you understand this is residual disability, not partial disability, so they will never, ever, ever, ever make it exactly half. So we eliminate that answer. So that means C, 30,000 out. And then let's say if there's only, let's say that took care of 3 out of the 4 answers on that test question. Guess what? The 4th answer is the right answer. You pick it and you move on. You don't need to go any further. There's only 1 answer left. You click it and you're done. That'd be great. But there still might be 2 answers left going through that. You might have only eliminated 2. And then we go to step 3, which is the seesaw. We use playground equipment in here. Anyone ever been on a seesaw before or a teeter-totter? They look like this in the park. Yes. Okay. If you have a teeter-totter, you're sitting on these. If I'm on the bottom of the teeter-totter, where's the other person? They're on the top of it, right? If I'm on the top of it, they're on the bottom of it. That's how it works. For us non-math people, that's called an inverse relationship. As one gets bigger, the other one gets smaller. Like my bank account and how much I spend on food. The more I spend, the less I save. Now the 2 people that are going to get on this teeter-totter, in this example, one of the answers is more than half. One of the answers is less than half. We just need to figure out which one of those answers is right. So I want you to think about it this way. There's 2 people that are going to get on this teeter-totter. How much I'm working part-time and how much I'm getting from my disability or getting from my policy. The more I work part-time, the less I'm going to get from my policy. So if I were to make an even split here and ask the group, with my part-time wage to my old full-time wage, is this more than half or less than half of what I was earning before? Am I earning more than half of what I used to earn, or am I earning less than half of what I was earning before? Anyone want to jump in? Billy says less. Catherine says less. Is $30,000 my part-time wage more or less than half of the $100,000 I used to earn? Less than, right? So that means how much I'm working goes on the bottom of the teeter-totter. So how much I'm getting goes on the top. So you pick the higher the two answers. That's it. And you'll get the answer right every single time. If you eliminate the all or nothing, you eliminate the half, and you figure out, is my getting on the top of the teeter-totter or the bottom? You'll get it every time. So basically what I'm saying is, if I work less than half of what I was before, I'm going to get more than half of my policy. If I'm working more than half of what I used to work, I'm going to get less than half of my policy. That's how you find your answer. No math needed. Right? Did we touch a calculator? No, we didn't. So what I do with the seesaw step, because someone asked me to repeat it, I look at my part-time wage, I compare it to my full-time wage, and I say, is this more or less than half? Which means, is it going to be less on the bottom of the teeter-totter or more on the top of the teeter-totter? And whichever one that is, how much I'm getting is on the opposite. So if I'm working more than half, which I'm not in this case, I would get less than half. If I'm working less than half of what I used to be, which is in this case, I get more than half of my policy. That's it. For the math people, I'll say it in words. She lost 70% of her income, so she gets 70% of 60 grand. What's 70% of 60 grand? 42,000. It works whichever way you want. I like my way because it's 30 seconds to a minute and I'm done. But if you're the math person, go do it. But I would say this to the group. From all my experience, I used to always teach the math, and I'd say 70% of people got it wrong. But now I teach it this way, and more than 70% of the people get it right. So please don't go out of the way there thinking you need to know the math. Because in real life, when you go out in the field, we have programs to do the math for you. I hear this feedback sometimes. I should know it for when I'm going to go help my clients. We have calculators to do everything for us. We have programs that do that math for us. And use the multiple choice for you, not against you. Is everyone understanding what I'm saying? Hopefully. Okay, good. We're moving on from disability insurance. And like I said, this is the most complicated thing that I was teaching today. So take a breath. We're moving on to some easier stuff. All right. Moving past. All right. Here we go. We've been talking about, up to this point, we've been talking about individual disability policies. I buy policy on me so I can replace my wage. Right? I buy a policy on me to replace my wage if I get hurt. That's what we've been talking about so far. We are going to move into business-based disabilities. By the way, if what I just went through with the residual is maybe not sinking in, that's why I do this class over every 2.5 weeks. Because I don't necessarily expect everybody to grasp it the first time I hear it. Like I said at the start today, my niece had to get told a couple more times than one time to wash her hands after she goes to the bathroom. Right? We got to repeat stuff to make sure it sinks in. So it's okay for you to come back. You're more than welcome to come back. I teach it the same way every time. On purpose. Okay. There's 3 different business-based disabilities. Why am I talking about business-based disabilities? Because these are going to be bought by a business, so purchased by a business, to pay the business. Okay? The first one is called business overhead expense. It's a business overhead expense policy, BOE policy. What this is made for is self-employed people If they get hurt at their job, they basically bring in all the income. Now there's no income. This is to pay for the rent of the building they have, the utilities that are with that building, and any salaries for employees. So if this was, say, a lawyer, say, for example, I'm a lawyer. I'm the only lawyer in my practice. I'm the only one doing lawyering. I don't know how the word is that for that. But I get disabled. Now there's no lawyering going on. No income coming in. This policy would kick in to make sure I paid my rent for my building, paid the utilities for my building, and paid my administrator their wage until I go back to work. This would pay the lawyer in that example nothing, because they would have their own individual disability policy to cover their lost wages. Jigsaw pieces. They fit together. The individual disability is for the lawyer to earn their own wage back. The business overhead expense policy is to keep their business afloat until they come back after disability. This is separate disability insurance just for the business, for a self-employed person, okay? The second business-based disability is a key person disability insurance. Thank you. Someone texted me to tell me that it's called practicing for lawyers, not just lawyering. I like my word better. It sounds funnier, but it's okay. We're just having a good time. If someone had a business and employees that worked from a home office, could they get this coverage and it would cover the mortgage for their home? No. It may pay, let's say if you're renting, sometimes you can get a policy that'll cover a little bit of the rent in your home office, but I would doubt that it would cover mortgage payments. It definitely, I'll say this, it would not pay all of it. It might pay a small sliver, even if you could get that to work, okay? And you kind of have to prove that you work at home too, which is sometimes hard to prove in times. But that'd be a good thing to talk to one of our product providers about, because some companies might be pretty flexible, might be pretty rigid with that type of thing. Key person insurance, this is for the business, by the business, on a key person. And I'll re-explain what I mean by that. This is if a business has a very key employee, that if anything happened to that key employee, there would be losses in the business. So let's say I'm a restaurant owner and everyone comes to see my chef. My chef does everything. Everyone loves my chef. They love their food. If my chef goes away, my business is going to lose a bunch of money. I buy a key person policy on my chef. So if my chef gets disabled, my business is going to lose money, because I'm either going to have to train somebody new, wait till they feel better, or hire somebody. And either one, I'm going to lose money. That's what key person is built to pay back some of the losses in that scenario. So this would not pay the chef any money. This would pay to replace the losses that the business would have due to the chef being disabled. The chef would have their own individual disability policy to pay their own wage. This is to keep the business afloat if a key person gets hurt. So usually these questions will talk about a person that is way beyond important. They'll say, oh, this person's irreplaceable, they're the best thing, they bring 50% of our revenues, something like that. They will tell you that this person is a key person. But just so we're clear, the key person cannot be an owner. They have to be an employee. The restaurant owner can't get a key person on himself or herself. They have to get it on an employee. Okay? Everybody okay? All right. The last one, business-based disability, we're going to talk about is called a buyout policy or a buy-sell policy. Chefs are always key. For sure they are. key person goes to the business. The key person insurance payment or the benefit goes to the business. Correct. There's two different types of buyout policies. There's one called a crisscross and one called a share redemption. Okay? These buy-sells or buyout policies are between owners. Now, so this is crisscross is partnerships, partners, and share redemptions is corporations. The way crisscross works is, let's say if me and Catherine are in business together, we're both dentists, because I like using the word like just throwing dentist in there. I don't know why. Let's say we both run a dentist practice. Yeah, I would buy a policy on Catherine. Catherine would buy a policy on me. I remember it being like, I grab her arm, she grabs mine. Like crisscross. That's how I remember them in my brain. Okay? So, in this scenario, these policies state that if I get disabled or she gets disabled consistently for a certain amount of time, there will be a lump sum of money paid to one of us to buy the other one out. So let me give you an example. These have a lot of paperwork around them, legal documentation, but we don't have to worry about that. We just need to worry about the insurance side. Let's say Eric gets disabled. And let's say I get disabled for a long period of time. Every month I'm disabled, we're running at one dentist in our practice, not two. So we're running at half capacity. Catherine's having to, pick up the slack. But let's say we get to the 2-year mark. And the 2-year mark is what is specified in our insurance, that if I'm disabled for a full 2 years, it triggers the buy-sell. What'll happen is Catherine will get a lot of money from the insurance company and buy me out of the company. She purchases my shares with that insurance money. I leave with money. She leaves with business. And then she can go find another partner. So what this is built to do is a lot of money gets paid out to the owner that's not disabled to buy the shares of the disabled party. So they can take the business elsewhere and the disabled person takes the money. So they get bought out. What's the time frame? They specify the time frame in the lawyer documentation. Some say 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, could be whatever they want. That's up to them. I'm just going to use 2 years as an example. Now, let's talk about the corporate side. Instead of Catherine and I buying a policy on each other, we're Catherine Eric Incorporated, let's say. And so what that'll do is the corporation will buy a policy on each of us. So we're not paying on the policy for each other now. The corporation bought one policy on me, one policy on Catherine. So if we go through the same scenario where Eric gets disabled for the full 2 years, the corporation gets the money to buy me out, not Catherine specifically. So Catherine Eric Incorporated buys me out. And then the corporation can go get another shareholder in that way. Okay? The reason why they're separate is this. In crisscross, every partner buys a policy on every other partner. So the more people that get included, the more insurance policies need to get bought. So if there's 4 owners, each person would have to buy an insurance policy on the other 3 owners. On the corporate side, the corporation still only has to buy 1 policy on every owner. So if we went up to 4 owners, they'd have 1 policy for each owner, 4 policies, versus 3 owners per person on the crisscross side. So the more people that go, that's why usually crisscross is partners, the more likely they're going to move to the corporate side. Can the key person be a family member? If we're going to go back to key person, can a key person be a family member? Yeah, if they're a key employee. But if they're an owner, no. Like if it's my wife and we both own the restaurant, no, because she's considered an owner in that scenario. If we're talking key person. Is everybody understanding buy-sell? Okay, we got one more thing to go through, and we're at 7:51. All right. We're going to talk about the last type of insurance. This is outside of disability, separate from everything we've talked about up to this point. Different insurance altogether. It's called long-term care. Long-term care insurance. And then we're going to talk about what's coming next week, because I feel like we need to have a conversation, or at least we need to start spreading the word as a group to get more people here, okay? Long-term care coverage is like disability, but for the elderly or incapable. Because this is coverage for people that are unable to take care of themselves. By the way, just because we're close to 10 minutes in the end, I wouldn't leave yet. I see people leaving already. This covers physical and cognitive issues. So other coverages are only, oh, can you physically not work? Are you physically sick? This can cover cognitive, like Alzheimer's, dementia. Yes, yes. And this is a reimbursement plan, not a payout plan. So if I'm unable to take care of myself due to being, Alzheimer's, dementia, or physically unable, someone else has to come and help me. And usually there's costs that come with somebody else coming to help me. And so this is what this is made to do, is to reimburse those extra costs. It's not a payout of $2,000 a month. It's a reimbursing the $2,000 that you paid for that nurse this month type conversation. Okay? Now there's the activities of daily living is what qualify for this or not. How you know if they qualify for the payout or not. And this is often what you're going to see. These words, the activities of daily living or the ADLs, to lead you towards picking long-term care. If someone is unable to do 2 or more of these at any point, so they can do 3 out of 5, that's unable to do 2 of them, they qualify for the payout or the reimbursement. And they are bathing, eating, dressing, and this is doing it by themselves, right? Just so everyone's clear. Toileting. And the last one I'm going to talk about, they say transportation, but I want to make you guys think mobility. Because it's not driving. It's to be able to transport yourself around your house. To go to the kitchen to eat. To go to the bathroom to bathe. To move around your house. To be mobile. And if they're unable to do 2 or more of these things by themselves, right? Or they're unable to eat and dress by themselves, they qualify for the benefit because they qualify for someone to probably help them do those things. Okay? And just to make it clear, because I want to make it clear one more time, if someone already needs this help, they can't qualify to buy the insurance. You have to buy it before they need it. Like my 94-year-old grandmother, well, if we had this, it would be paying for someone to come help her or paying for the nursing home, etc. But we can't buy it for her now because she already needs it now. Does this make sense? Okay, good. How much is the cost? Depends, just like every cost in here. There's no hard and fast rule. Okay? It's really hard for me to quote you any costs because every insurance company is different. It's like saying, how much does life insurance cost? Well, for someone that's 18, $18 a month. For someone that's 60, $300 a month. I can't give you an average because it could just be whatever it is. Okay? Now, let's go back to the schedule one more time because I want to have a conversation with the group. I need your help with this. Oh, where is it? Come on. Where's my schedule? Okay. Well,